And we are back. Welcome back to another Premier League prediction video. Game week 14 ended only last night, but it's already time for game week 15 in what is got to be one of the most competitive Premier League seasons we have ever seen. There are just 4 points between 5th and 13th at the moment in the Premier League. And we're almost at the halfway stage, which is mad to think about. It only still feels like the season has only just started, but we're already at game week 15 and there is an awful lot on the line once again this week. Before we get into it, as always, if you haven't done so already, please do consider dropping a like on this video if you do enjoy all of my predictions series. And don't forget, if you are new around here, to subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on, because we're about to head in to yet another European week, which means videos on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday for each of the respective European competitions. And after the Club World Cup draw yesterday, I will be getting all of my stuff ready for the summer, where we will be covering, of course, every single game of the Club World Cup this year. So make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out on any of that. As for game week 14, as we move ahead to the prediction screen, we somehow managed to salvage 5 out of 10 by getting both of the games correct last night, which I'm quite pleased with. I said it was going to be one of the toughest weeks to call, and to come out of it with 50%, considering some of the results I got way off, I will actually take that. No correct scores, sadly, but 5 correct results, which takes our season results in all competitions now to 359 out of 626. So we're still well above 50%, which I'm very, very pleased with. And without any further ado, let's get straight into it. We have got 10 games in the Premier League for you this week. As always, don't forget that you guys can have your say on each individual match by heading over to the community page and voting for who you think is going to win. And let me know in the comments section who you think is going to win each match over there. But let's get into it. And we're starting off with arguably the biggest match of the weekend. It is time for the Merseyside derby on a Saturday lunchtime. It's Everton taking on Liverpool. Now, going into this, I think a lot of people are going to expect Liverpool to win this one pretty comfortably. However, Everton have had 3 clean sheets in their last 4 matches, and Liverpool have only won one of their last 6 at Goodison Park, scoring on only 2 of those 6 occasions. So actually there is a lot of form and momentum on Everton's side going into this. That's quite a good combination of stats to say coming into this. But are we really going to expect Liverpool to not score at Goodison Park this time around? It would be a real shock if you ask me. Yes, they did drop points to Newcastle in midweek. It was the first points they have dropped in their last 8. They won all of their previous 7 coming into that Newcastle game, but it was still a 3-3 draw. So the expectations are that Liverpool are still going to score goals in this match. That said, Alexis McAllister is suspended for an accumulation of yellow cards. Konate is still injured. Alisson is still injured. Jota is still injured, and there are a few others as well that are going to be missing. However, Mohamed Salah is the man to watch once again. He broke the goal and assist combination record during midweek's game, his 37th game scoring and assisting in the same match, making him the all-time record holder in the Premier League for that stat. So fair play to him. He's going to be coming up against Mykolenko once again, who has had a really good time against Mohamed Salah, it has to be said. The question really is, can Everton use their set-piece dominance that they used to beat Wolves 4-0 against Liverpool's side that did concede late on to a set-piece against Newcastle? For me, as much as I'd love to see Everton get a result here, I do still think Liverpool are going to come out on top. But I think it's going to be a tight one. I'm going for a 2-1 victory to Liverpool to kick off the weekend and see them go even further clear at the top of the table, at least for the time being. That then takes us to Saturday lunchtime, or Saturday afternoon, shall we say. And the first of those games sees Aston Villa take on Southampton. Aston Villa ended their 8-game spell without a victory with a convincing 3-1 victory over Brentford in midweek. A prediction that I got completely wrong. I did go for a Brentford win. They are taking on the bottom club, Southampton, who are now going to be without both of their regular choice centre-backs. It looks like Bednarek is not going to be making it due to his injury, and Jack Stevens is going to be suspended for the 2nd time this season, this time for pulling Mark Cucurella's hair like an absolute idiot. That is one of your senior players. I just cannot believe he would do something like that, especially when they were already losing and already in an injury crisis. For Villa, it looks like Onana could be back in the midfield for them, who I do actually think has been a big loss for them. You think about this 8-game winless run they went on. Onana didn't play in any of those matches. So if they've got him back, I think that's going to make a difference. They've obviously got some momentum coming into this off the win over Brentford. Not only that, Southampton are just going to keep gifting them chances that they have with everyone else over the last few weeks. Look at the chances they gave Liverpool. Look at the chances they gave Chelsea in the 2 matches we've seen from them recently. I would expect Villa to absolutely come out on top in this one. I am going for a 4-0 victory to Aston Villa here. Might be a little bit OTT, but genuinely, I think the way Southampton are playing without their centre-backs available, with how good Villa can be in front of goal, I can only see this being a Villa thumping here. Next up is Brentford taking on Newcastle. And speaking of goals, no ground in the Premier League this season has seen more goals than the G-Tech. But still, no side has got more points at home this season than Brentford. So I'm going to expect another absolutely chaotic game here. Not to mention that Newcastle did just draw 3-3 with Liverpool, so they're already in the swing of things in terms of both scoring lots of goals and conceding lots of goals. And speaking of games that had 6 goals in them, this match had 6 goals in it last year, with Newcastle coming out on top away 4-2. Both of these sides are on 20 points coming into this game. They are separated by just 1 goal in the goal difference standings, and it is literally 1 goal. Brentford have a goal difference of 1, Newcastle have a goal difference of 0. So there is so little to choose between these two sides coming into this one. If you're going to pick a favourite, I'd probably still edge it for Brentford, just given the fact they have such a good home record. But the way Newcastle played against Liverpool, I'm expecting them to at least get a draw here. But that is what I'm going to go for. I'm going to go for 2-2. I very nearly went for 3-3 again. But I think you have to be mad to actually outright predict a 3-3 draw. So I'm just going to go for 2-2. If it's 3-3, I'm going to be fuming. But that's the way I see it. Can't split them right now. 2-2 draw. That then takes us to Crystal Palace taking on Manchester City. And a lot of people are aware that Crystal Palace are a bit of a bogey team for Manchester City. But what people aren't aware is that's only away from home. That's only at the Etihad. Crystal Palace have more points at the Etihad in the Premier League than they do at Selhurst Park against Manchester City. In fact, Manchester City haven't lost at Selhurst Park since 2015. So it's bizarre how Palace can always go to City and get a result, yet they really struggle to get a result at home to Manchester City. Couple that with the fact that Kevin De Bruyne's impact against Nottingham Forest was so big for Manchester City. He really got them going again. A goal and assist, man of the match performance for him. It looked like usual service had been resumed at Manchester City in that Forest game. And you know what? I'm going to throw this out there as well. Stefan Ortega has made a massive difference. He is, in my opinion, an out-and-out goalkeeper, seemingly a better goalkeeper than Ederson. He might not be as good with his feet, but in a period where City have been struggling defensively, he's made a difference in these last couple of games. He's made a lot of vital saves, and I think that is going to continue in this one here. For Palace, they've got Mateta seemingly back to full form. His incredible goal against Ipswich, the difference in that game in what was a big relegation scrap for them, and a big win away from home. It'll be interesting, but I think if City do manage to play the same way they did against Forest, I really struggle to see how Palace get anything from this game. And as I've just spoken about Manchester City defensively, I'm going to give them the clean sheet as well. I'm going for a 2-0 victory to Manchester City. Speaking of Manchester City, of course, they beat Nottingham Forest in midweek, and that is the focus of the late game on Saturday, should I say, as they travel to Old Trafford to place 13th place Manchester United. But as I did say at the start of the video, only 4 points from 13th to 5th. So United certainly aren't out of this yet after going 2-0 down to Arsenal. And speaking of going 2-0 down, in this fixture last season, United were 2-0 down to Forest after just 4 minutes. Thankfully, as a Manchester United fan, they were able to come back and get the victory 3-2. But they did go on and beat Manchester United in the league back at Forest later on in the season, before United then beat Forest again on their way to the FA Cup final last season. So a lot of mixed form going into this. It is worth noting that obviously both sides do come into this off the back of defeats, as we have already talked about. And in terms of the battle between these two Portuguese managers in Amorim and Nuno, for me, I think Amorim's going to be the one that's feeling more confident. Forest have lost 3 of their last 4, their only victory being that 1-0 win via penalty. For United, they're certainly looking a lot better under Ruben Amorim. And as I spoke about in my post-match reaction in the Arsenal game, I think certainly defensively, I think United played really, really well to keep Arsenal out other than set pieces. So that's the only worry going into this as a United fan is, can Forest exploit our defensive weaknesses from set pieces? That said, United are going to have Lisandro Martinez back. They're going to have Kobbie Mainoo back. The only real potential first-team absentee is Luke Shaw. And Nottingham Forest aren't going to be missing any potential first-team players either. So both sides coming into this with relatively full-strength sides. I would expect United to get the win at home here. I think it's going to be a really tight and cagey affair, though. I'm just going to go for a 1-0 victory to Manchester United. That then takes us on to Sunday. And on Sunday, we have all 4 teams that played last night, playing in 4 different matches. And the first of those sees Fulham, who are now up to 6th place after their victory last night, taking on 3rd place Stoke City. Arsenal. Jokes because corners. Anyway, Arsenal, of course, now in 3rd place after that victory over Manchester United. They are playing some very good stuff at the moment, and they are taking on, arguably, the Arsenal reject team. You've got Leno, you've got Iwobi, you've got Smith Rowe, you've got Nelson. I think that's it. There might be a couple of others. Let me know if I have missed any out. For them, they are going to be potentially without Gabriel and Calafiori again. There's going to be some late fitness tests on both of those. Stay tuned to Mikel Arteta's press conference for update on them. For Fulham, they're only going to be missing Tom Cairney after his suspension continues from getting the red card against Tottenham. I can see this being a really, really tight game. Fulham at home, as we know, are a very, very strong side. They're 6th in the Premier League for a reason, and their home form is one of the big parts of that. They also did beat Arsenal at home last season. It was a 2-1 victory for them then. But that's the only victory they have over Arsenal since 2012. So, again, there's a lot of form and a lot of momentum going into this one for Arsenal. Again, I can see this being a very tight and cagey affair. If Fulham can exploit the defensive injuries in Arsenal, they could potentially get the result here. But the way Arsenal have played the last few weeks, and it is more than just set pieces. You can make the Stoke City joke all you want. They're scoring 4 or 5 most games at the moment, and they're not all from set pieces. Odegaard has made a massive difference for them. I expect him to be the difference again. I'm just going to go for 2-1 to Arsenal, but genuinely, it could be more. But I still think Fulham potentially have a chance as well. Speaking of chances, it is now Ipswich Town taking on Bournemouth, and Ipswich are a side that really are struggling to take chances at the moment. No goals in either of their last 2 matches, and they lost at home to fellow strugglers Crystal Palace in midweek, which sees them now in the relegation zone outright, 3 points adrift of the side they're trying to catch. Meanwhile, Bournemouth continue to go from strength to strength with another impressive victory over Tottenham last night. Ipswich's only victory of the season is against Tottenham, so I gotta think that Bournemouth are going to be considered the favourites for this one. They're back in good form. They're up into 9th in the table. They're literally double the places above Ipswich in the Premier League table. There are no fresh injuries or suspensions for them coming into this one. And with the way Ipswich have played over the last couple of weeks, I really, really struggle to see where they're going to get the result here against a Bournemouth side that are really in a good run of form. I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory for the Cherries here. But who knows? Maybe Ipswich can surprise us once again. That then takes us to Leicester taking on Brighton. Ruud van Nistelrooy's second game in charge of the Foxes. And this is 2 sides that were involved in bizarre 3-1 home victories. Leicester won 3-1 against West Ham, despite West Ham absolutely battering them. And Brighton lost 3-1 away to Fulham, despite having the vast majority of the chances in that game, and Hurtsler saying in his post-match press conference that he cannot believe Brighton haven't got at least a point from the match. So you'd suggest that that would mean that Leicester are going to get the win here as well, because if we follow that sort of pattern, Brighton are going to batter Leicester the way they battered Fulham and battered West Ham, and then Leicester will get the win like they did against West Ham and like Brighton did against Fulham. But I don't see things going that way. Both sides, I think, are starting to get some momentum going. I know Brighton have lost last night, but if they're going to create as many chances as they did against a Leicester side that is going to give up as many chances as Leicester give up, I do think the quality of Brighton's attacking players are going to show through in the end. For the second game in a row, I'm going to do 3-2 to the away team against Leicester. But Van Nistelrooy's side got the points last time out. Could be a really entertaining one, this. Neither side has a clean sheet in their last 7. So expect goals in that one. 3-2 to Brighton, I am going. That then takes us to the main event slot of the weekend. And it's another derby. This time back in London. It is Tottenham taking on Chelsea as 10th place Spurs under manager Ange Postecoglou. If you've not seen that clip from last night, go and see that. The fans actually shouting Ange Postecoglou at their manager is absolutely mental, by the way. They've only got 1 win in their last 6, but it was 4-0 at Man City. So, against the second place Chelsea, who are absolutely flying under Maresca at the moment, it's the sort of game that Spurs are going to win. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the way Chelsea look at the moment, how effective they're being in front of goal, they're even starting to get a little bit better defensively. Yes, they still concede on average just over 1 goal a game, but they're not conceding 2 or 3 anymore. It's down to just 1. They are playing some very, very good football. He's got the side flowing. He's managed to get the system in place whereby everyone seems happy when they come into the team. There seems to be no sort of dressing room beef between the players who aren't playing and are and aren't. And I just really like the way Chelsea play at the moment. They're a young team that's expressing themselves and playing really good football. Not to mention, they also won both fixtures against Spurs last season, including 4-1 away to Spurs last season. With Spurs' injury problems, with how poor they're playing, I've got to go for a Chelsea win here. I'm going for 3-1. And then that takes us to the Monday Night Football, where it's time for El Sacchio as Lopetegui takes on Gary O'Neill, as it's 14th place West Ham taking on 19th place Wolves. Both sides with poor results in midweek. West Ham are obviously going to feel unlucky after their 31 shots against Leicester resulted in them having 10 shots on target and only 1 goal, thanks to Fulkrug in the last minute of the game. However, Wolves have absolutely no excuse. I did them to beat Everton. I think that was a justifiable prediction on the form Everton and Wolves were in at the time. Wolves had more shots on target at their own goal than they had on target at the Everton goal and ended up scoring 2 own goals, both from Dawson, and they lost 4-0. That says to me that Gary O'Neill has an awful lot more work to do than I thought. They're obviously still in the relegation zone as well, hence the title of this one being El Sacchio, because I genuinely think the loser of this match could get sacked, and if they draw, they genuinely both could get sacked. From what I've seen of both sides over the last couple of weeks, I would expect West Ham to get the result here. As we've already mentioned, Fulkrug is back as well, so there could be a chance of him starting this game with him being the one who got the goal. For Wolves, they've just got to sort out their defensive problems. They're absolutely all over the place at the back at the moment. And I think that's going to cost them again here. And I'm going to round off today's predictions with a 3-1 victory to West Ham. And that is going to be it. As always, let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching as always. Don't forget to head over to the community page to have your say on all 10 matches this weekend. I will see you once again on Monday morning for the Champions League predictions once again.